recording.
Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Darlene Atkins. I'm the executive producer of this wonderful film.
13, shot 1.
Scene 17, shot 5, take 1, Mark.
22, shot 6, take 1. Perfect.
Okay, and Nicole.
Hello, and welcome to the 15th episode of In the Know Women Show. Today our show will have guest host Cortney Kelley and guests Sara Kemp and Bethany Canchola. We're all connected through a filmmaking experience that started several years ago. If you've been watching the show from the beginning, you might remember guests Janice Liu and Isabel Nixon Klein. They also became involved in the short film after that second episode. Serendipitously, the stars aligned, crew and actors fell into place, and pre-production started on Cowboy Dinner, a script our guest Sara Kemp wrote. These women, as well as many others, helped to make the movie into a reality. You'll hear about that and so much more from our talented and creative guests when we come back from the show opening. Before we cut over, however, I'd like to also thank filmmaker Nicholas Canchola, who edited the film, Olympia Film Collective, Oli Film as it is now known, and Brandon Thompson, who at the time was facilitating the production meetings. He asked me to attend one of those so I could meet other women who were involved in filmmaking, as well as consider being the short film's executive producer. My life that night forever changed.
Thanks, Darlene. I am so excited to be here talking with the two of you. And what a fun project that we were all able to be part of. I think we're going to bump around talking about lots of different things today. So let's start off with Sara. Why don't you share with us a little bit of the backstory?
So I randomly took a class in Olympia just before COVID. It was a small class on how to write a short film, and my friend Bougie was teaching it, and I went home and just started writing, and I don't even know how the inspiration hit, but there's a term in my family that came from my kid's dad's childhood where he would go and visit his grandparents on the weekends, and it was a special thing for them to be able to eat dinner in front of the TV in the living room. And they called it Cowboy Dinner.
I love that.
And they would watch spaghetti westerns, as they did back then. And something about that image of gathering, almost like the TV was the campfire. It harkened back to when you would tell stories around a campfire. And so the power of story in people's lives that began from the time that we could talk. We would share stories. And so it came sort of from that, and the rest sort of just flowed once that idea arrived.
I love that. You know, we often gather, the gathering around flame is such a unique human experience. You know that?
Yeah. And film is like the flame of story, especially when you're watching it on a small screen.
So now remind me, how did, I know how I got involved with this project with you. Bethany, how did you come
Facebook.
involved?
That was the first thing, is I just moved to Olympia, and I made a post on Facebook that I'm in the film community. I just moved from Los Angeles, and I wanted to get involved in something, and I believe Darlene, it was Sara.
It was me.
Yeah, it was Sara. Sara reached out to me. She called me and asked me if I'd be interested, and I was like, yeah. So then I got involved. That's how it started.
And that was the first of many, many, many serendipities of things just popping when they needed to pop, as far as bringing people on board.
Well, I'm so honored that you asked me to be involved.
I know that you're a person who can do anything, and I knew that you had been involved in films and theater And you just matched my vision of the character.
Oh,
you just matched.
Being Alice was so fun. You know, the story was so tender and so sweet. And I know there were some things that weren't able to be filmed.
Yeah, there was a lot more backstory to not only Alice's history with her family, but also points of contact between Alice and the other characters in the story that sort of explained why they ultimately grew that community together that didn't make it into the final cut as it in its current incarnation. What did come out, I do agree, is a lovely tender view of people coming together that I envisioned.
And what a beautiful time. I mean, we started this project fall of 22.
It was 22 because that's when I moved here.
Okay. Yeah, and you know, people were just emerging from these lonely places of, you know, during the pandemic, and I thought, you know, what a perfect little film to show the importance of building community, the importance of, you know, weaving stories and sharing stories and talking about those stories, and then just what community means. You know?
It really was a community effort, and it really was a patchwork of miraculous serendipities of people just like, we needed X, and someone in the existing crew met somebody who knew how to do X, and then we needed Y, and Y appeared when it, you know, with just the skills that were needed in that moment. It was truly a community effort, and gratifying for me in the sense that I not only was able to meet new people, Darlene and Bethany, and but I also was able to enjoy bringing in just people I knew and loved already to participate. Jill Daniel, a long friend, Lisa Sandell, who was the well, she did everything.
Yeah.
Name it, she did it.
Yeah.
And you, and then you knew people, and they knew people, and yeah. So it really was, and yeah, it was like we were coming out of hibernation.
Truly.
Like, let's do something.
Yeah.
And we were all doing it on our spare time. We were all like working full-time jobs and doing it literally in the middle of the night. And it was definitely a project of love.
It was a project of love, and I think that's the story. You'll feel that, I think, when people watch it. I hope they feel that. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about your backgrounds before Cowboy Dinner. So I know, Bethany, you were from the Pacific Northwest, moved to LA area. So
Yes.
what's your background? And
I was born and raised in Olympia, and then while I was growing up, I did a lot of theater. I graduated high school, and then I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Hollywood, California, and that was great. It's like boot camp for actors. It was amazing. Wow. It was great. But I did that, and then I worked on some films. I acted and I directed. I did a lot of things when I was in Los Angeles. And then I moved back up here to be with my family. I also met my husband down there and brought him back up here with me, who's also the editor of Cowboy Dinner.
who has lovely long hair.
Yes.
I was amazed at when he had his hair pulled up, and then when he had it down one day, I'm like, who's that guy? Did you have any theater experience or film experience, and you just jumped in and wrote a film, and there you go?
Yeah, not so much. I was in one play in high school, and then I took off doing choir instead. So that kind of, there was no more of that. But I've always loved theater. I've always loved musicals. I've always loved film, even TV. And I didn't really consider myself even a writer, but we started doing The Artist Way back when my now almost 18-year-old was a baby, not even crawling yet. And we did Artist Way, and this is an interesting.
You want to speak to maybe what that is? Maybe people don't know what Artist Way is.
Artist Way is a book and a program designed to help people to tap into their creativity. And it gives you assignments to do, and one of the assignments that you're supposed to do each week is called an artist date. And my very first artist date that I did, I went to downtown Olympia, and I was like, I'm just going to walk around and see what happens. You're supposed to draw inspiration from what you do and what you see. And I went to Browser's Books, and I literally closed my eyes and put my finger on the spine of a book, and I pulled it down, and it was called How to Write a Screenplay.
Stop it.
I won't.
I know. I love that story. I've heard this story. It's amazing.
Well, and Browser's Books is where we ended up filming this. And I got started writing a script that is, I worked and I worked and I worked on it, and I got like 2/3, 3/4 of the way done, and my son started to crawl.
And then there you go.
And I still haven't finished that script. And but then, you know, years later, fast forward, and I went to that film writing class, and that's when I produced Cowboy Dinner. And one of the people that was in that class was Brendan Thompson, and he and I put out sort of an all call to the other participants saying, anybody interested in doing the artist's way? Because I was inspired and jazzed by what I had produced in the class. Anyone want to do the artist way? And he was the only one who bit. And he and I met for coffee one time, and nothing ever came of it, of course, because life's busy, and we were both just off doing our own things. But through that coffee date, we became Facebook friends. And so then the pandemic happened, and one day I open up my Facebook, and there's a message from him saying, we're interested in producing this film. And I had forgotten about I mean, it was just, you know, in a stack somewhere on my desk, and I had forgotten I had written it.
I love that story just obviously was so tender and sweet that it just found its way to be told.
Well, yeah, I do too. I like that too. It's been a really a gift to my life that it happened the way it happened. And I appreciated that he appreciated the story enough to sort of keep it in his mind and flag it for something he might want to do someday. And he basically, you know, I think it was his idea that we attempt to have an all-women crew, and we very nearly met that mark. Yeah. And so that was another piece to it that I appreciated about the project, was that it was going to be sisters doing it.
Yeah, and that was it was so organized. I felt like, you know, from the day that we started, you know, people were so professional, and I was like, wow, I thought we were just going to kind of get together and do something fun, but no, it was people.
That was Darlene.
Yeah,
Darlene and Lisa.
She's amazing.
Yeah. Although, you know, the first time she and I met to even talk about the project, my daughter was with us, and Darlene had a book from the library that was a kid's book on how to make a film. It was literally step by step what you do. You would be able to speak to that more than I could, because around how to, you know, the building blocks of putting a film together.
And storyboarding. And
all of that, yeah.
It was so
that's
fun
the word.
to be part of it, yeah. You know, just the things that go on to help organize how is the story going to be told. And it was particularly interesting watching how you guys, you know, from the director's perspective and, you know, the cinematographer, how you wanted to film things. You know, what was your line of sight? And being, because I'm a photographer, I just thought that was so fascinating. Like, yeah, you're crafting an experience based on, you know, the sight line and where the camera is. And, you know, we appreciate that when we're watching film work ourselves. But, you know, to be part of in there, seeing, you know, it happening real time.
One of my favorite memories was watching Bethany direct when the grandmother and the young woman and her daughter were watching the film. And, you know, obviously Bethany's not on camera, but she's directing their reactions to the film. And I'll never forget, I can't replicate it, but just basically you were acting yourself, showing them what to do, and, you know, laugh and, ooh, and like I said, I can't do it, I'm not an actor, but you did a beautiful job of just drawing out from the actors what your vision was for that scene. It was lovely to watch.
Thank you. I mean, as far as, I I'd been involved in theater things, you know, in high school, and then in my early 20s, I'd done, you know, a number of community theater projects and took a show up to the Fringe Festival in Seattle, and, you know, just like a handful of being an extra on some feature films. But this was the first time to be really immersed in an experience, and it was so much more fun than I had ever imagined it could be. And you guys made it fun, and I felt very supported throughout the whole process. Yeah. So this was your very first project coming back to Olympia from LA.
When I became the director, I met everybody, and that was amazing because I was brand new. I didn't know anybody. And then I also met like Lisa Sandal, who's now one of my best friends. And we've been doing lunch dates ever since the beginning of Cowboy Dinner. So, but I think the most amazing part was that we were immersed into the film industry in Olympia so quickly. When I say we, I mean me and my husband, but we just got here and we just got busy, and I loved meeting everybody. Yeah.
We've had conversations about the films that you chose, that they were going to be the succession of films that they were going to be viewing throughout the you know, courses of these invitation. Well, she threw an invitation out to the community, and the very first film was Thelma and Louise. Why? I love it. Why?
It's a badass film. It's a badass film. It's a fabulous film, and you know, the films that I chose, they just kind of popped into my head as I was writing, and mostly they were just films that I loved. And I have I mean, I'm not like a filmophile history buff. I don't have a really rich education around film history or film I don't. It's
you like what you
it's
like.
just that I liked what I liked,
yeah.
and what I like can be really different. It was like Thelma and Louise and Strictly Ballroom and
I love that movie.
Elf. I mean, it was kind of all over the map, but that was just all me. That was just all what I love.
So how did you prepare for the role of Alice?
How did I prepare for the role of Alice? Well, when Sara first invited, you know, me to consider this role, I was so thrilled. I said, I can't wait to read the script, and you sent it along. I think that, you know, any role that you play, there's lots of different processes to step into how you connect with who that person might be, and Sara did such a great job really rounding out the emotional depth of this character throughout the arc of the story, that it was really easy just to kind of fall into it. I mean, here it is. She's just kind of this lonely woman. I mean, clearly has this beautiful bookstore / video store, but you know, her day ends with her work, and then she kind of falls into this abyss and this like lonely rhythm of life, you know, of drinking wine and watching a movie and heating something up in the microwave. And you know, I mean, I think we can all relate to having moments of loneliness and grief, and it was really lovely because you had this idea of who this character is, and then approaching the filming portion of it, you know, you guys were wanting to pull certain things out of us rather than having any dialogue. There was no dialogue in the film, so you know, we would just be receiving guidance from the director staff and the director as to, all right, try it this way, let's do this. And it felt very fluid. I'm excited about the film. I think people are going to think it's very sweet and fun. And we talked a little bit to Sara about her creative process. I know that you've got a ton of things that you've done since Cowboy Dinner. Talk a little bit about what that launched for you after Cowboy Dinner.
I worked with TC Media, and I did Live at 5. They did both. Live at 5, the first one, I was in a lot of the shorts, and then Live at 5 for the second one, I was the host for I was a host for the first time. I never hosted anything in my life, but it was fun and I wanted to try it. So yeah, they did the Live at 5 projects, and I've done a couple projects of my own. I did a little short called Camp Run Amok with 2, and the way that I made that was really funny because It was just I had 2 neighbor kids, so I wrote a script just for them.
Wow.
And then that month I was like, all right, guys, we're going to go film something. And I worked with them. We did rehearsals. They were my neighbors, so they just came over. And then when we filmed, we drove them out to go film, and it was fun. We created a bond with them.
That's so fun. Well, what's next? What are you doing now?
Twisted is the big project that I worked on, that I directed. That was great. That ended up going to the, is it the Bremerton Film Festival? But it went to a film festival in Bremerton.
In Bremerton.
That was really cool to be recognized for just this little film we did in Olympia. And then now, I believe the last thing we shot, we've been working on the Good, Bad, and the Bakers.
Is a film? It's a different film?
It's a different film. Mm-hmm. It's a pilot. It's a pilot, television pilot. Mm-hmm. And we've been working pretty hard on that. But that is finishing up. And we're working on our own short. It's called If a Hiker Poops in the Woods. And it is pretty funny, pretty graphic.
Don't you mean when?
But, yeah, when a hiker poops in the woods. But that one is really funny, and I can't wait for us to finish it. It's a post-production right now, and it's hilarious. I mean, we have some great actors in there, too.
Oh, fun. Who doesn't laugh with poop? I mean, let's be honest.
But yeah, that's a lot of what I've been doing. I mean, I think there's probably a couple other things in there. But.
Yeah. What about you, Sarah? I know that you're doing some stand-up.
I did a little stand-up with my daughter. That was really fun. And then got busy with my 2 kids that are still in high school with their activities, sports mostly, and theater. And sort of backburnering, you know, I let it ferment way deep down, and then it's kind of pops up. I do some songwriting too, and you know, I go through these flurries of activity. I'm a Gemini, and so it's like all or nothing, and so right now I'm kind of in that latent stage.
But it's always working, you know?
It's always in there.
That creative process, it's always just kind of clicking along there.
It's always in there somewhere.
Fun. For me, I've been, for the last year and a half, one of the new fun things that I'm doing is teaching a cooking class down at Bayview. So it's the first Thursday of every month. It's just a free class. There's 10 and 1. And it's kind of this / demo of cooking. We usually demo 2 recipes. And I just tell all kinds of stories that my family probably wishes I didn't tell.
Sure.
And hilariously enough, about a year and a half ago, we got a dog, another dog, and his name is Cowboy. I've loved that name for a male dog for, I don't know, the last 20 years, and so now I have this dog, and he is a complete maniac, and he bosses my entire life around, so. But yeah, you know, just kind of helping support our granddaughter, and.
So every morning and every night you give Cowboy dinner.
I give Cowboy breakfast and dinner. So maybe that should be your next movie is
Cowboy
breakfast.
I can sink my teeth into that one.
Love it. You know, he's fun. It's funny how rhythms like that change your whole routine. Yeah. But I wanted to talk a little bit too about, back at the creative process and looking a little bit at shooting that last scene, because I think one of the things with your sister, you know, you're talking about your dad having been a major influence in your sister's life and and Alice's sister's life, the character Alice.
The characters, for sure. I'm not
Alice's
talking
sister.
about my dad there, but the characters.
The character's sister in the play, and how they were very much a part of the same industry, but very different avenues. So Alice goes on to have a video store, bookstore, and then her younger sister is actually down in LA working in the film industry, and there's this estrangement. And so when they finally come back together, the way that, what did you have in mind when you were crafting the optics of how that reunite, the reunion of them seeing one another?
From what I remember, I feel like we were trying to, first of all, not show the sister right away, like have a kind of a slow reveal. So, and then that was fun. So Peyton was our DP, our director of photography, and she is really the one that brought the shots to life. I was there. My main job was telling the actors what to do. Her main job was moving the camera and getting those, make sure she's getting just those really good moments. And one of the things that happened that day, which was really fun, just a fun moment on set, was, so if you notice there's a lot of people in that scene. There's a lot of chit-chat, chatter. And I don't know if you remember this, but I asked everybody to chit-chat and chatter, and everyone thought I was probably going to do it for like 15 seconds, like just say chit-chat for 15 seconds after the sister walks in. But no, I had everybody chit-chat for like 2 or 3 minutes. And everyone was like, when I cut, they're like, I didn't know if you were going to stop. But I did that specifically because then we can have that chit-chat sound, which is a very valuable sound just to have as an editor, just to have that kind of a sound. So I just wanted the sound, so that was fun.
And why, so the film is silent pretty much up to that point?
Yes.
And yeah, so how did you, was that a directorial writer, conversation that you guys had, or that was the way that you wanted to help tell the story?
I believe that was Sarah's idea, was to have the mostly silent and then just the Cowboy Dinner at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were like originally 3 lines in the film, and they were all either Cowboy Dinner or Just Like Home.
Yeah.
And I don't think that made the final cut.
No, I don't think it did. Yeah.
But yeah, just 3 lines.
Yeah. I loved, when Alice's sister, comes through the door, and, I loved the embrace that we had, because I'm really close with my family, and it felt so good to have an embrace, knowing there was this estrangement, and how important, those family ties really are, how deep they run. And then that gorgeous, the bustle. So we were filming at night at downtown Olympia in Browser's bookshop. And so there's lots of hilarious things happening outside those doors in downtown Olympia
I just remember legions of people creating the set, designing the set. And we had a working bookstore that, we had, from X time to Z time to create our set, and then we had to get it right back the way it was so they could open the next day for business. And we literally had to move tables and tables and shelves of books into boxes, shove them to the back of the store so that we had our set, and then we had to recreate how it was.
And I mean, the staff that was doing that, production staff, were so careful about taking photos and really wanting to make sure that there was as little disruption
as possible
to Browsers as possible. And
Shout out to
so generous.
Shout out to Browsers.
Yeah. But there is so much we can continue talking about about this production. What an honor it was to play such a tender character, and thank you for trusting me, Bethany. Amazing job. You really made this project fun and comfortable, especially for people who hadn't done that before. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to Darlene for, inviting us all to have this conversation and just reminisce on what a cool project that was. And thanks for tuning in.
Well, that's a wrap, as they say in showbiz. Thanks, Cortney, Sara, and Bethany, for making the time for In the Know Women Show. I also hope you, the viewer, have enjoyed all our episodes. We are celebrating 3 years. I want to thank TC Media and the staff, past and present, for the support and professional training producers receive to be successful in their projects. Go to their website if you'd like more information on how to become involved in community media.